Hello and welcome to video number 2 of the Kid Code Project. We are going to actually get you started today. Now, if you saw the original video 1, we installed Visual Basic, or actually Visual Studio Express 2013 on your computer. Now what we're going to do is we are actually going to start the program, create your very first program, and introduce a few things about the system. It's going to be a short video, but it's important. Now, with that said, I know everybody wants to jump ahead and become programming wizards. Patience. Here we go. After you install it on mine, and let me explain this too, I'm using Windows 7. Your icons and your screen may look a little different. It's the same program. Don't worry about it. So here we are, Visual Studio Express 2013 for desktop. Let's start it. It is starting. Here we go. It's going to take a moment to initialize. Boom, 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 boom. And it's initializing. I'm running on a very slow computer compared to most of the others we have here. This video recording software actually slows things down quite a bit. I'm going to pause for just a moment. Okay, here we are. It finally loaded. Just waiting for the upper click. While it's doing that, let's go ahead and chit-chat a little bit about what we're seeing. This is actually the start page. Most of the Microsoft software now, Windows especially, has what they call pages or tabs, right? Where this is like a tab in a file folder you might find at school. And from this page is where you really begin creating new programs. Let's take a quick look at it. If you look, you see we can start a new project. You can open an existing project, or you can open from a source control. We're not going to worry about that, okay? All we want to do is new or open. If you haven't created one yet, use new. If you have one that you want to go back and work on again, you use open. So let's begin. Just a moment. I'm going to pause again while it finishes. Okay, it finally finished. The video capturing software really slows this machine down. Let's go to a new project. It's going to open. Okay, we are going to be working with Visual Basic. If you look in this corner of the window, you will see that we're going to be using Visual Basic, and we are going to be using what's called a Windows Form application. A form is what you're typically used to when you see software that people are using. It's whereas the windows that you can move. In fact, this screen is a form application. This that I'm moving right now is called a form. Okay, so we're going to be doing that. And we can name it anything we want to name. This is right here the name of the program we're going to create. So let's just give it a really simple name like my first program. We could have named it anything. Okay, seriously, we could have named it anything. We could have named it Bob, but we're not. We're going to call it my first program. Okay, now the location, this determines where it's going to be stored on your computer, on your computer's hard drive. If you don't understand file structures and, directory structures especially, you might want to brush up on a little bit or ask an adult or have someone help you with it. So we're just going to go ahead and accept where it goes. The default location is pretty good. Okay. Solution name. Now let me explain a quick thing here. Solution, project, and application to me are really all the same thing. Okay. The word solution is relatively new in programming, as far as I'm concerned. It's a solution for a problem, and the program solves the problem. Okay. And a project is creating a solution for the problem. So just get used to those words being the same thing, okay? The difference, one being is the project could have a lot of files that create different solutions for the same problem. So you have multiple solutions in a project, but don't worry about it, okay? Same thing. It's going to have the same name as what we created up here. That's perfect. And we're going to say if the directory doesn't exist, we're going to create it automatically. I love that. Ready? Okay. It is now creating the initial files that we need. Now, if you see me turning over here side to side every once in a while, what it is I'm kind of going through my notes. I'll give you a quick little history. The origins of these videos came from the fact that I wrote a book, a very large book about programming for kids. But the problem with it was is after I looked at it and created that book, it was going to cost a lot of money for people to buy it. And it didn't make a lot of sense for something to cost a lot of money for kids to buy to use, right? So basically, I used the book that I wrote as a reference for the videos. So fortunately, because I can't remember everything I wrote because the book was over 400 pages long. That's like trying to memorize the phone book or something. Anyway, it's creating it. And your computer may run faster or slower, but remember that a compiler, which is what creates our programs for us, we'll get into that more later, is very powerful, and it takes a lot of processing power. Now, here we are. Believe it or not, you've just created your first program. In fact, one way to make certain that your program works, and I'll explain the rest of this to you in a moment, to make this work, is all you have to do is press the F5 button. And it runs. Boom, boom, boom. And there it is. There's your very first program. I'm not kidding. It's that easy. What you see, this is actually the program that's been created. It's a single form, like we talked about. It looks like a little window on your screen. And it is your first program. This is why they call it Visual Basic, because years ago, before this visual technology was around, everything on this form would have to be created by code, meaning you would actually have to write lines of code to say, okay, the box is this big, it has an X, it has a square, it has this word. You had to write code for everything. Now with the visual system, it's much easier. And we'll get into that a little bit later, not much later actually, pretty soon, but understand this, you don't have to write the code to create your program. Look, that is so nice. You have no idea. Okay, now, when I told you we'd be writing our first program later, that's not really what I meant, but we did. I'll get to some more fun stuff in a moment. Anyway, like any other program, you would see, in fact, let's do it again, I'll show you. When I pressed F5 again, just to let you know so it would run the program again. This program is also already functional. Windows already added, the compiler already added the Windows functions of closing the program, maximizing it. Let's click it. Boing, there it is. Let's reduce it back to size. Let's minimize it. Let's go back and get it. And let's move it. It's fully functional, and you didn't have to write any code. Wonderful. Oh, I love it. I love it. Crazy. Okay, so here we are. And you are looking at what I call the screen that you can do everything with. Unfortunately, the rest of the world calls it the Integrated Developers Environment, IDE. So I'm going to take a few seconds here real quick, and I'll introduce it to you. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to get interrupted for just a second with my wife watching the singing show, voice something like it, whatever. Anyway, let me explain it, introduce it to you. It may look really cluttered with a lot on it, but it's really important that it be this way, because you can do everything in creating your program from this one screen. You don't have to go to other screens to do something and come back to this screen to do anything. It's all right here, and it makes it so easy. Some of these things you should already be familiar with most Windows programming. This up here is called the main menu, right? From it, you'll find things that you're probably already used to. File, open, that sort of thing. Edit, you can edit your files and whatnot. You can change the way everything looks with the view. You can change settings in your project. We'll go over a lot of these as we go through the course, but understand this is just basically the main menu. Now, This is actually the design view of your program. This is where you design the way it looks, the visual part of Visual Basic, right? And you can tell what it is by the design in the brackets here. That tells us what it is, okay? Now, you can also go to the code view by creating a code tab, and I'll do that real quick. You can do it many, many ways, but I'm just going to double click on the form. And it is going to create code view. Here's the code. This is the code, the programming language code behind the form that we get to work with. Since the form has already been laid out by Windows and the Visual Basic, we don't have to mess with it, change it. We can if we want, but let me show you real quickly how easy it is. Let's say we want it to be wider but narrower. We grab on the handles, which you should be aware of. They're pretty common in Windows. You grab the handle and you change the way it looks. It's that easy. The code that actually does this, kind of behind the scenes, is already taking care of it for you. Now let's just change some other stuff here. Just make it taller. Okay, just to show you that it actually stays that way in the program, F5 to run it. There it is. I know you may not appreciate it much, but not having to write program code to make it do that is just wonderful. It really is. Try doing that with TCL. You can't. TCL doesn't do that. Okay, so basically this is the design window. We have created the form window. We'll talk more about the programming window. We'll talk more about that later. Over here we have what's called panes, like a window pane. This is the Solution Explorer. In this pane, you will actually see the names of the files associated with your program that you create. As you create new things, the files will automatically be created, and you can see them here. This is the Properties windows. A quick word about properties and objects. Everything in programming in Visual Basic is an object. It may seem strange to even discuss objects and what they are right now. Just understand that everything's an object and everything has properties. We're going to go into properties in more detail in the next lesson when we actually create a real program you can work with. But to understand that they always show up here in this pane. Okay? Don't worry about it right now. We'll cover it in video number 3. This is the output window. When you run your program, it will actually show you what's going on down here. It will explain in so-so English, kind of computer talk, kind of English, human talk rather, what's going on. And when we get later, further into the course, and we see later videos, it will actually show us what's going on here, and we can use this to help us make the program run faster and easier and without problems. Now, we are going to open up one last thing before we close this video out. Told you, short video. Toolbox. Let's click on it. And we opened up the Toolbox. And we are going to do this. Okay. Now, the Toolbox list tools over here. All kinds of tools. We're going to go into detail on this starting next video. But the Toolbox is very important to us. So what we want to do is once we click on it, it opens to the side here, but it kind of covers stuff up. Right? So what we want to do is, you see this right here, it looks like a thumbtack. A thumbtack that you stick in the wall. Just like this. Just like a thumbtack. What we do is, if we want this to stay on the screen and everything else arranged around it so we don't have to open, close, is we click it so the thumbtack turns down like it's poked into a board. Just like that. Pretty cool, huh? And there you go. After 2 videos and about 20 minutes, you have actually created your very first, you've downloaded, installed, created your first program, arranged your interactive development environment, and you're basically set to go. Now, before I close, I'm going to explain IDE, what they mean by integrated development environment. When they say integrated, they mean everything is on one screen. It's integrated into one screen. You can make graphical changes in the way things look. You can change the programming code. You can add things to it. You can see how it runs. You can change the properties. You can see your files. It's all integrated in one location. It's the developer's environment, which you are becoming a developer, and this is where you'll be working. So IDE. I prefer the window screen where you do basically everything, but they don't pay me, so I don't get the name stuff for them. Okay, so we're done. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go to File, and we're going to save all so we don't lose any of our progress. Even though you may say it's not a lot, you don't want to do it again anyway. And exit. We're going to close the program down, and we're done with this video. If you want to close Visual Basic, click the X, and out she goes. It's that easy. So, in 2 videos in about 20 minutes, you have downloaded Visual Basic, you have installed it, you have created your first program, albeit that it doesn't do a lot right now, and you have saved it, and you have set the ID up to meet your needs, and you are ready to roll. I hope you enjoyed it. It was quick. If you have any questions, have any concerns, just comment below. If you like what you saw, click the like button, and I will see you later.